My aunt mocked my diabetes at Thanksgiving, then broke into my room with 5 gallons of gasoline while I was sleeping, so I jumped out the window and testified. That was 5 years ago. She's still in psychiatric hold, writing apology letters I burn, while her 9-year-old daughter calls me mom. My aunt straight up hates me. I know it's strange when your own family can't stand you, but that's the truth. My aunt only cares about how she looks, her body, and being pretty. She exercises every single day, taking no days off, and is the queen of eating disorders, refusing to eat anything deemed junk food, even on holidays. She is rail thin, and really believes that everyone should live the way she does. Her obsession with her looks and appearance is so extreme that I have seen her explode at her husband for getting her cupcakes to celebrate their anniversary. Maybe this is why he cheats on her. The only reason I know is because their 4-year-old, my cousin, is someone who I'm very close with, and she has told me before that she saw her daddy with not mommy. I have kept this a secret, however. I don't feel like I should be the one to blow up a marriage. Besides, the man's marriage is miserable. If the affair comes out, he won't be too devastated. I think my aunt is just deeply insecure, and that's why she pushes this lifestyle onto others, especially me. You see, I'm a tomboy of sorts. I don't place much attention on my looks. I don't care for expensive clothes and makeup the way she does, and I am sort of chubby. Nothing major which affects my health, but I can admit that I have a tummy. However, my health is completely fine, and I do exercise. I just enjoy food way too much, and the trade-off for me of having a little belly, but enjoying food the way I want to, is without a doubt worth it. Well, my aunt does not see it this way. She thinks I'm not elegant and feminine enough, believes that I should be thinner like a woman should be, and insists I wear more makeup, as well as get more manicures and pedicures. It's a nightmare to deal with, honestly. It's especially frustrating when the holidays come around, and this is for 2 reasons. 1, she always has to comment about my weight, and no amount of my parents telling her to cut it out will make her stop badgering me about the fact that I'm a tomboy. The second reason is that her gifts are about as insensitive as I can think of. I don't remember the last time that she got me something that was not a makeup set, some sort of diet or healthy recipes book, or anything along those lines. It really does annoy me, but it's almost a weird tradition at this point. Well, this Thanksgiving was when she had really crossed the line. Recently, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and this has completely changed my life around. I can no longer enjoy the foods I would like to as much as I want to, have to constantly cater my life around being diabetic, and have even slumped into a somewhat depression because of this. Thankfully, my parents have been amazing throughout this. They are really supporting me in every way they can. We all knew that this Thanksgiving was going to be quite tense with my aunt there. She was definitely going to comment on the fact that I'm not having dessert, and that is when I would have to ultimately tell her what has happened. Due to this, my parents decided to try get ahead of the curve and tell her themselves with my blessing to do so. The day before Thanksgiving, they drove down without me, and when they came home, they told me that my aunt seemed receptive to this news and did not make a big deal of it. This really surprised me, and I almost actually believed her. When Thanksgiving came around the next day, we all gathered at our house to celebrate. The dinner went without a hitch for the most part. My aunt did not make any comments about me. She did talk about herself a lot, which is expected, however. She is an egomaniac. Apparently, she got another plastic operation done since the last time I saw her, which was just 3 months ago. Everything was fine until we had dessert after dinner. My aunt simply couldn't help herself. Her and I were the only people not eating dessert, and she looked at me and told me, "All the years of eating like crap caught up to you, huh? I told you this was going to happen. Bet you regret it now." Now, I'm not one to cry, especially in front of my family, but this day was a reminder that my life was never really going to be the same, and so I was already feeling quite down. Add to that, my aunt's awful comment about it made me break down and cry. My parents shot up and asked her what was that all about. They told her not to do this, and she just can't ever listen and not comment about her weight. She tried to defend herself saying, "I mean, I'm not wrong." This caused my dad to explode even more and tell her to get out. Her husband just laughed the whole time and backed up my aunt with sly comments like, "Come on, she's just speaking her truth." I had managed to stop crying fairly quickly, and I yelled out to my aunt and uncle as they were leaving, "All the years of being superficial and caring so much about how you look didn't stop your husband from cheating on you, did it?" She turned around with a confused look, and I saw my uncle freeze in his tracks. My father, not wanting to deal with the upcoming mess, just ushered them out and told them not to contact us until they are ready to apologize. The door slammed behind them with a force that rattled the picture frames on the wall. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, still shaking from what had just happened. My mom rushed over and wrapped her arms around me while my dad stood at the window, watching their car pull out of the driveway. "I can't believe I said that," I whispered into my mom's shoulder. She pulled back and looked at me. "Honey, she had it coming." What she said was cruel. My dad turned from the window, his face still red. 20 years of her treating you like that. 20 years of us asking her to stop. He shook his head and walked into the kitchen. I heard him opening cabinets, probably looking for something stronger than the wine we'd had with dinner. The rest of the family had gone silent. My cousins sat frozen at the kids' table, their eyes wide. My grandmother clutched her napkin in her lap, and my other aunt just stared at her plate. "Well," my Uncle Tom finally said, breaking the silence, "that was quite the Thanksgiving." My cousin Jamie, who was 16, looked up from her phone. "Wait, Uncle Richard is cheating? For real?" "Jamie, not now," her mother said quickly. I stood up from the table, my legs still wobbly. "I need some air." Outside on the back porch, I sat on the old wooden swing my dad had installed when I was little. The November air bit at my skin, but I didn't care. I pulled out my phone and saw 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. As I stared at it, the phone buzzed again. Same number. I answered. "Hello? Is this Maya?" The voice was female, nervous. "Who is this?" "My name is..." "Look, I just saw your aunt and uncle leave your house." She was crying. "Did something happen?" My stomach dropped. "How do you know my aunt and uncle?" There was a long pause. "I think we need to talk. Can you meet me somewhere? I don't even know who you are." "My name is Victoria." "Victor, I'm the one your uncle has been seeing." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're calling me? Why?" "Because I heard what happened. Your little cousin told him you knew. He called me panicking about an hour ago, said he might need to come clean. Then just now he texted that you told everyone at dinner." I stood up from the swing. "Look, I don't want to be involved in this. Please, I need to know what's going to happen. I have kids. If this all comes out..." "You have kids?" I couldn't hide my disgust. "I know how it sounds, but please, just 5 minutes. There's a coffee shop on Maple Street. It's open late." I looked back at the house through the window. My family was starting to clear the table, moving like robots through the familiar motions. I can't just leave. Please, I'm already here. I've been sitting in this parking lot for an hour trying to work up the courage to call. Something in her voice made me pause. She sounded desperate, scared even. 5 minutes, that's it. I went back inside and found my mom in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher. I'm going to take a drive. Clear my head. She looked at me with concern. Are you sure you should be driving right now? I'm fine. I just need to process everything. My dad appeared in the doorway. Take your time, kiddo. We'll handle cleanup. The coffee shop was mostly empty when I arrived. I spotted her immediately. A woman in her 30s sitting in the corner booth, nervously shredding a napkin. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see she'd been crying too. I slid into the booth across from her. 5 minutes. She nodded, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. I know you must think I'm terrible. I don't think about you at all, I said, which wasn't entirely true. I'd wondered about her ever since my little cousin mentioned seeing her dad with not mommy. Fair enough. She took a shaky breath. How long have you known? A few months. My cousin. She's only 4. She mentioned it one day when I was babysitting. Victoria winced. Richard said she was at the park that day. We didn't think she saw us. Kids see everything. I crossed my arms. What do you want from me? I want to know if your aunt knows it's me specifically, or just that he's cheating in general. I didn't give her your name if that's what you're asking. I just said he was cheating. She relaxed slightly. Okay, that's something. Are you going to keep seeing him? She laughed, but it was bitter. After tonight, he sent me a text saying we're done, that he needs to fix his marriage. Good. Is it? She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. You know what your aunt is like. Do you really think she'll forgive him, or will she just use this as another weapon? I didn't answer because I knew she was right. My aunt would make his life hell, and she'd probably find a way to blame me for it too. I should go, I said, starting to slide out of the booth. Wait, she reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Give this to your uncle, please. Absolutely not. I'm not your messenger. It's not what you think. It's information he needs about your aunt. I paused. What kind of information? She pushed the envelope across the table. The kind that might help him in the divorce. I'm a paralegal. I know things. I stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. Why would you help him? He just dumped you. Because I'm not the first woman he's had an affair with, and I won't be the last as long as he stays with her. She stood up. Your aunt isn't just mean, Maya. She's abusive. And your uncle. He's no saint, but nobody deserves what she puts him through. She left before I could respond, leaving me alone with the envelope and my cold, hot chocolate. I sat there for another 10 minutes before finally picking it up. It wasn't sealed. Inside were photocopies of credit card statements, medical records, and what looked like police reports. I drove home slowly, the envelope burning a hole in my passenger seat. When I pulled into the driveway, most of the cars were gone. Only my parents and grandmother's remained. Inside, I found my parents in the living room with my grandmother. They all looked up when I walked in. Feeling better? My mom asked. I nodded and sat down next to my grandmother. She patted my knee. You did the right thing, sweetheart, she said quietly. Someone needed to say it. Did I, though? I pulled my knees up to my chest. I just blew up their whole marriage at Thanksgiving dinner. No, my dad said firmly. Richard blew up their marriage when he decided to cheat. You just brought it to light. Your aunt called, my mom said carefully. She wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to her. You don't have to. I told her you needed space. My grandmother squeezed my knee. She also called me. Wanted me to make you apologize. What did you tell her? A small smile crossed my grandmother's face. I told her that maybe if she hadn't spent years tormenting my granddaughter, she wouldn't have had her secrets spilled at the dinner table. I looked at her in surprise. My grandmother rarely took sides in family disputes. I've held my tongue for too long, she continued. Watching her hurt you, year after year, making comments about your weight, your clothes, your choices. I should have put a stop to it long ago. It's not your fault, Grandma. No, but I enabled it by staying silent. We all did. She looked at my parents. We were so focused on keeping the peace that we forgot to protect you. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. What are you going to do with that? My mom asked, noticing the envelope in my hand. I looked down at it. I don't know. Someone gave it to me. Said it might help Uncle Richard in the divorce. My dad frowned. Someone? Who? I hesitated. The woman he's been seeing. The room went quiet. My mom and dad exchanged looks. You met her? My mom asked carefully. She called me. Asked me to meet her. She was scared about what would happen. Maya, you shouldn't have... I know, I interrupted. But she seemed really desperate, and she gave me this. I held up the envelope. I haven't looked at everything, but there's some serious stuff in here. Police reports and medical records. My dad held out his hand. May I? I gave him the envelope. He pulled out the papers and started reading, his frown deepening with each page. These are domestic incident reports. Your aunt called the police on your uncle multiple times. What? My mom moved to read over his shoulder. But look at the details, my dad continued. She called them because he wouldn't give her money for another cosmetic procedure, because he ate a piece of cake at a work party, because he bought regular milk instead of almond milk. My grandmother shook her head. That poor man. Poor man? I said. He's been cheating on her. 2 wrongs don't make a right, my grandmother said. But sometimes people do desperate things when they're trapped. My phone rang again. This time it was my cousin Jamie. I answered. Maya, you need to check Instagram right now, she said without preamble. Why? Just do it. Your aunt posted something. I put her on speaker and opened Instagram. There it was. A long post from my aunt about how her family had betrayed her at Thanksgiving, how her own niece had spread vicious lies about her marriage, and how she was the victim of a cruel attack. The comments were already pouring in. Her friends rallying around her, calling me names, saying how ungrateful I was. Some of them were people I knew, family friends who had watched me grow up. This is insane, I muttered. It gets worse, Jamie said. Check her stories. I did. She'd posted a photo of me from last year's Christmas dinner, circling my stomach with the caption, "Diabetes was inevitable. Some people just don't take care of themselves." My hands started shaking. My mom took the phone from me. She's lost her mind, my mom said. This is cyberbullying. She's a grown woman attacking a teenager online. I'm screenshotting everything, Jamie said through the speaker. My mom is furious. She's calling Aunt Rebecca right now. Tell her not to, I said quickly. It'll just make things worse. Too late. Mom's already dialing. I could hear shouting in the background on Jamie's end. I gotta go, she said. But Maya, for what it's worth, everyone knows Aunt Rebecca is crazy. Nobody believes her. She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone as more notifications popped up. Comments on my own Instagram. People I hadn't talked to in years suddenly messaging me. Turn it off, my dad said gently, taking my phone. You don't need to see this right now. She's trying to destroy me, I said, feeling numb. Because I told the truth. Because she's humiliated, my grandmother corrected. And when narcissists are humiliated, they lash out. What do I do? Nothing, my mom said firmly. You do nothing. Let her show everyone exactly who she is. My dad was reading through the papers again. These medical records. Your aunt has been prescribed some serious medications. Antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. She's mentally ill? I asked. That's not an excuse for her behavior, my mom said quickly. Mental illness doesn't make you cruel. No, but it might explain the extremes, my dad said. He set the papers down. Maya, I think you should give these to your uncle. Not because you want to get involved, but because he might need them. I don't want to see him. You don't have to. I'll handle it. He gathered up the papers. But first, we need to document what your aunt is doing online. If she escalates this, we might need evidence for a restraining order. A restraining order? Against my own aunt? If she's harassing you online, yes, my mom said. This isn't just family drama anymore. She's publicly attacking you. My phone, still in my dad's hand, rang again. He looked at the screen. It's your uncle. I shook my head. I don't want to talk to him. My dad answered instead. Richard? Yes, she's here, but she doesn't want to. What? Slow down. She did what? We all watched as my dad's face went pale. We'll handle it. No, do not come over here. Richard, I'm serious. Fine. Yes, I have them. Someone gave them to Maya. I'll explain later. Just keep her away from here. He hung up and looked at us. Your aunt is on her way here. Richard tried to stop her, but she took his car keys. Call the police, my mom said immediately. She's not going to do anything, I said, but my voice shook. She's all talk. Maya, go upstairs, my dad said. Now. I'm not hiding from her. You're not hiding. You're removing yourself from the situation. My grandmother stood up. I'll go with her. We were halfway up the stairs when we heard the car screech into the driveway. Through the window, I could see my aunt stumbling out of the car. Even from here, I could tell she'd been drinking. Oh no, my grandmother whispered. The pounding on the door started immediately. Open up. I know you're in there. Maya, you little brat, get out here. My dad's voice was calm but firm through the door. Rebecca, you need to leave. You're hammered. I'm not hammered. I want to talk to my niece. She ruined my life. You need to go home. We can talk tomorrow when you're sober. Don't you dare lecture me. That girl is a liar. A fat, jealous liar. I started to go downstairs, but my grandmother held me back. Don't give her what she wants. The pounding got louder. I know you're up there, Maya. Too scared to face me. Just like you're too scared to face your diabetes. It's your own fault. That's it, I heard my mom say. I'm calling 911. Go ahead, my aunt screamed. Call them. Tell them how you're harboring someone who destroys families. Through the window, I could see neighbors starting to come out of their houses. Mrs. Chen from across the street was filming with her phone. Rebecca, please, my dad tried again. Think about what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm confronting the person who ruined my marriage. Richard ruined your marriage, my dad said, his patience finally breaking. Not Maya. There was silence for a moment. Then my aunt started laughing, but it was an unhinged sound. You all knew, didn't you? You all knew and nobody told me. Some family you are. We didn't know, my mom called out. Maya kept it to herself to protect you. Protect me? Protect me? The pounding resumed. She humiliated me. I could hear sirens in the distance. My aunt must have heard them too because her tone suddenly changed. Please, she said, her voice now tearful. I just want to talk to her. 5 minutes. That's all. The police are coming, Rebecca, my dad said. You should leave before they get here. I'm not leaving until that brat apologizes. The sirens got louder. I watched from the window as 2 police cars pulled up. My aunt turned to face them, and even from upstairs I could see her trying to compose herself. Officers, she said, her voice suddenly sweet. There's been a misunderstanding. This is a family matter. One of the officers approached her while the other went to talk to my dad, who had stepped out onto the porch. Ma'am, have you been drinking tonight? The first officer asked. I had wine with dinner. Is that a crime? Did you drive here? She gestured at the car. It's my husband's car. I borrowed it. Ma'am, I need you to step back from the house. I couldn't hear the rest of the conversation, but I watched as they gave her a field sobriety test. She failed spectacularly, stumbling and swaying. They cuffed her and put her in the back of the patrol car. My dad came back inside. They're taking her in for DUI. Richard's on his way to get his car. I came downstairs, my legs shaky. Is she going to jail? For tonight at least, my dad said. Richard will probably bail her out in the morning. This is all my fault. No, my mom said firmly. This is the result of years of untreated mental illness and substance abuse. You just happened to be the catalyst. My uncle arrived 20 minutes later, looking haggard. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, he said to my parents. I tried to stop her. My dad handed him the envelope. Someone gave this to Maya. You might need it. Richard looked inside and his face went white. Where did you get this? Does it matter? My dad asked. I guess not. He looked at me then. Maya, I'm sorry for everything. The way she's treated you. What happened tonight? I should have stood up for you years ago. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. Is it true? I finally asked. The police reports? Has she done this before? He sighed. 3 times in the last year. Always when she's been drinking. Always when something doesn't go her way. Why do you stay? He laughed bitterly. Where would I go? She controls everything. The money, the house, even my job. Her father got me hired at his firm. And he paused. There's our daughter to think about. My 4-year-old cousin. The one who told me about the affair in the first place. She needs at least one stable parent, he continued. If I leave, Rebecca gets full custody. You've seen how she is with you. Imagine that directed at a 4-year-old full-time. That's not a reason to cheat, my mom said quietly. No, it's not. But when you're drowning, you grab onto anything that makes you feel like you can breathe. He turned to leave, then stopped. The woman I was seeing. Did she contact you? I nodded. I'm sorry about that too. I never meant for any of this to touch you. He left, and we all stood there in the sudden quiet. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait, my dad said, and we document everything. Save those Instagram posts, the texts, any voicemails. If she continues to harass you, we'll get a restraining order. I don't want to break up the family. You didn't, my grandmother said. The family was already broken. You just stopped pretending it wasn't. We spent the next hour in the living room, nobody quite ready to be alone. My mom made tea, and we sat there processing everything that had happened. My phone stayed off, but I could see my parents checking theirs, probably monitoring the situation online. I should have handled it differently, I said eventually. I shouldn't have said it in front of everyone. Maybe not, my mom agreed. But you're 17. You were hurt and you lashed out. That's human. Your aunt is 43, my dad added. What's her excuse? My grandmother had been quiet for a while, but now she spoke up. You know, Rebecca wasn't always like this. When she was young, she was actually quite sweet. But something changed after she got married. The eating disorders, the surgeries, the need to control everything. It got worse every year. Mental illness? My mom suggested. Maybe. Or maybe just the pressure of trying to be be perfect all the time. Either way, she chose to deal with it by hurting others, especially you, Maya. Why me, though? What did I ever do to her? You existed, my grandmother said simply. You were everything she couldn't control. Happy in your own skin, confident without makeup or expensive clothes. You were proof that her whole worldview was wrong. The next morning brought a strange calm. I woke to find my parents already in the kitchen, my dad on the phone with what sounded like a lawyer. My mom handed me a cup of coffee and squeezed my shoulder. How are you feeling? She asked. Like I got hit by a truck, I admitted. Is Aunt Rebecca still in jail? My dad hung up and turned to us. Richard bailed her out an hour ago. The lawyer says we should document everything and avoid contact. I checked my phone for the first time since last night. 57 notifications. My stomach churned as I scrolled through them. Most were supportive messages from friends, but scattered throughout were nasty comments from my aunt's circle. One message made me freeze. Maya, this is Mrs. Richardson from down the street. Your aunt is at my house right now, and she's saying some very concerning things. I think you should know she's planning something. I showed my parents. My dad immediately called Mrs. Richardson while my mom pulled up the security camera app on her phone. We'd installed cameras after a break-in 2 years ago, never thinking we'd need them for family drama. She left 10 minutes ago, my dad reported after hanging up. Mrs. Richardson said Rebecca was asking about Maya's schedule, where she goes after school, which friends she hangs out with. That's stalking behavior, my mom said. We need to file a report. I have school tomorrow, I said. I can't just hide forever. We'll figure it out, my dad assured me. For now, let's focus on staying safe today. But Rebecca wasn't done. Around noon, packages started arriving. The first one seemed innocent enough, a weight loss tea set. Then came the diet pills. Then a book titled Diabetes, the Disease of Poor Choices. Each delivery had a gift message attached with increasingly cruel comments. How is she even doing this? I asked, staring at the growing pile. She must be ordering them online for same-day delivery, my mom said, taking photos of everything. This is harassment. The doorbell rang again. This time it wasn't a delivery. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize holding a clipboard. Can I help you? My dad asked through the door. I'm from Child Protective Services, the woman announced. We received a report about neglect and a minor in danger at this address. My blood ran cold. My parents exchanged shocked looks before my dad opened the door. There must be some mistake, he said. The woman, who introduced herself as Ms. Martinez, was professional but firm. We received a call stating that the parents at this address were allowing their minor daughter to eat herself into diabetes and were now enabling dangerous behavior. My aunt, I whispered. She called CPS on my own parents. Ms. Martinez spent 2 hours interviewing us, inspecting our home, and reviewing my medical records. My parents showed her everything. My doctor's reports confirming my diabetes was genetic, not lifestyle-induced. The harassment from my aunt, the police report from last night. I'm very sorry your family is going through this, Ms. Martinez said finally. It's clear this was a false report made maliciously. We'll note this in our records. After she left, we sat in stunned silence. My aunt had tried to have me taken away from my parents. This has to stop, my mom said. She's escalating. My phone buzzed. Jamie was texting frantically. Check Facebook now. Your aunt posted your medical info. With shaking hands, I opened Facebook. There it was. A post from my aunt with screenshots of what looked like medical documents. How she got them, I had no idea. The post detailed my diagnosis, my weight, even my blood sugar levels, along with a rant about how my parents had failed me. This is illegal, my dad said, looking over my shoulder. She's posting private medical information about a minor. We screenshot everything before reporting the post. Within an hour, Facebook had removed it, but the damage was done. I was getting messages from distant relatives, family friends, even people from school who had seen it. I need air, I said, heading for the back door. Take your phone, my mom called, and don't go far. I sat on the back porch steps trying to process everything. My quiet, introverted life had exploded into chaos, all because I'd finally snapped after years of abuse. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. You think you're so smart, my aunt's voice slurred through the speaker. Ruining my marriage, turning my family against me. Aunt Rebecca, you need help, I said. I need help? You're the one who's sick. Diabetes at 17. Disgusting. The doctor said it's genetic. It has nothing to do with lies. Everything about you is a lie. But I know the truth. I know what you really are. What are you talking about? She laughed. That same unhinged sound from last night. I hired someone, a private investigator. Did you know your precious mother isn't as perfect as she seems? My blood chilled. What? Oh, you didn't know? Your mother had quite the past before she met your father. The things I've found out. I wonder what your father would think. You're lying. Am I? Check your email, sweetie. I sent you a preview. She hung up. With trembling fingers, I opened my email. There was a message from an address I didn't recognize with the subject line, Your Mother's Secret. Inside were photos. Old ones, from what looked like the early 2000s. My mom, much younger, at what appeared to be parties. Nothing scandalous, just normal college-age behavior. But the email promised more to come if I didn't publicly apologize and admit I'd lied about the affair. I went back inside and showed my parents. My mom's face went white when she saw the photos. Where did she get these? She whispered. She said she hired a private investigator, I told them. My dad's jaw clenched. She's trying to blackmail a teenager. This is beyond sick. Those photos are from college, my mom said, before I even met your father. There's nothing inappropriate about them, but she's trying to make it seem like there's some dark secret, I finished. She's trying to manipulate me. We called the lawyer back. He advised us to save everything and not respond. But Rebecca wasn't waiting for a response. Within hours, edited versions of the photos started appearing on Instagram, tagged with my mom's workplace. The captions implied all sorts of terrible things. My mom's phone started ringing. Her boss, her coworkers, everyone was seeing these posts. I have to go to the office, my mom said, grabbing her keys. I need to explain this to HR before it gets worse. I'm coming with you, my dad said. No, my mom insisted. Stay with Maya. I don't want her alone. After she left, my dad and I tried to distract ourselves by watching TV, but both our phones kept buzzing. The situation was spiraling. Rebecca had created multiple fake accounts and was posting constantly, each message more unhinged than the last. Then Jamie called, crying. Maya, I'm so sorry. My mom just told me. Your aunt is at our house. She's trying to convince my parents that you're dangerous, that they shouldn't let me talk to you anymore. What? She's showing them all these edited screenshots, making it look like you said horrible things. My parents don't believe her, but she won't leave. My dad's about to call the police. I could hear shouting in the the background, then Jamie's dad's voice booming, "Rebecca, get out of my house now!" The line went dead. I looked at my dad. "She's going to everyone we know. She's trying to isolate me. We're getting a restraining order first thing tomorrow," he said firmly. My mom came home an hour later looking exhausted. HR was understanding, but this is a nightmare. She's attacking my professional reputation now. "We'll sue her," my dad said. "Defamation, harassment, stalking. She's breaking multiple laws." "With what money?" my mom asked tiredly. "You know, Rebecca, her father's money pays for the best lawyers. We'd go bankrupt fighting her." That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined what Rebecca might do next. Around 3 a.m., I heard something outside, footsteps on gravel. I peered through my bedroom window and saw a figure by our car. I shook my dad awake. "Someone's outside." He grabbed a baseball bat and headed downstairs, my mom calling 911. Through the window, we watched the figure run away as my dad turned on the porch lights. Our car had been keyed, liar scratched deep into the paint. The police came and took photos, but without proof it was Rebecca, they couldn't do much. We all knew it was her, though. Who else would it be? The next morning, I didn't want to go to school, but my parents thought maintaining normalcy was important. "Don't let her win," my mom said. "We'll drive you and pick you up. You'll be safe." School was a nightmare. Everyone had seen the posts. Some people were supportive, but others whispered and stared. In third period, I was called to the principal's office. "Maya," Principal Johnson said gently, "we've received some concerning reports about your home situation." My heart sank. "My aunt called you too?" He nodded. "She sent quite a lengthy email with allegations that we're required to follow up, but I want you to know we're aware of the situation. Your mother called this morning and explained everything." I spent an hour in his office going over the harassment, showing him the evidence we'd collected. He was sympathetic but warned me to be careful. "Your aunt seems unstable," he said carefully. "If you see her on campus, tell someone immediately." At lunch, I sat with my usual friends trying to act normal. Then I saw her, Rebecca, standing outside the cafeteria windows, staring directly at me. She was holding her phone up, filming. "Is that your aunt?" my friend Sarah asked, following my gaze. I nodded, my mouth dry. "I need to tell someone." But before I could move, Rebecca was gone. I reported it to security, but she'd vanished. They reviewed the cameras and confirmed she'd been there, which was enough for the school to issue a no trespass order. When my parents picked me up, I told them about the incident. My dad's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "This ends now," he said. "We're going to the courthouse." We spent the rest of the afternoon filing for an emergency restraining order. The judge, after reviewing our evidence, granted it. Rebecca was ordered to stay 500 feet away from me, my parents, our home, and my school. Finally, my mom breathed as we left the courthouse. But Rebecca had one more card to play. That evening, as we were eating dinner, trying to pretend things were normal, my dad's phone rang. His face went pale as he listened. "There's been an accident," he said after hanging up. "Rebecca drove her car into a tree. She's in the hospital." We sat in stunned silence. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is your fault. If I die, my blood is on your hands." My mom grabbed the phone. "She's still harassing you from a hospital bed?" Another text came through. "You destroyed my life. Now I'll destroy yours. This isn't over." We called the police and added the text to our report. The officer who came to take our statement shook his head. "In 20 years, I've rarely seen harassment this severe. You folks need to be very careful." That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My aunt was in the hospital because of a car accident that happened after we got the restraining order. Even though I knew it wasn't my fault, the guilt gnawed at me. "She chose to drive recklessly," my mom said, sitting on my bed. "Her choices, her consequences. But what if she really was trying to hurt herself because of what happened? Then she needs psychiatric help, not enablers," my mom said firmly. "You told the truth about something wrong. Everything that's happened since is because of her actions, not yours." The next morning brought a new horror. Richard called my dad early, his voice shaking. "Rebecca discharged herself from the hospital against medical advice. She's missing, and she took my gun." "Your GN?" my dad repeated, loud enough for us all to hear. I forgot I even had it. It was locked in a safe, but she knew the combination. "The police are looking for her, but I thought you should know." We called 911 immediately. Within minutes, police cars surrounded our house. They searched the property and set up a patrol. We were told to stay inside, doors locked, until Rebecca was found. "A GN," my mom kept repeating. "She has a gun." I sat on the couch, numb. How had it come to this? A week ago, my biggest worry was whether I could eat pie at Thanksgiving. Now my aunt was armed and unstable, and we were essentially under house arrest. Jamie texted, "Police are at your aunt's house. The whole neighborhood is freaking out. Are you okay?" I didn't know how to answer that. Was I okay? My diabetic aunt, who had tormented me for years about my weight, was now potentially dangerous, all because I'd revealed her husband's affair in a moment of anger. "Maya," my dad said, sitting beside me, "I need you to listen carefully. If you see your aunt, if she tries to contact you, if anything feels wrong, you run and call 911. Do you understand?" I nodded. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I said anything at Thanksgiving." "No," he said firmly. "This is not your fault. Your aunt is sick. She's been sick for a long time, and we all ignored it. We let her abuse you because it was easier than confronting her. We failed you, not the other way around." Hours passed. The police maintained their patrol. We waited, jumping at every sound. Then, around 2 p.m., Richard called again. "They found her," he said. "She's been arrested." The GN was in her car, loaded. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by a fresh wave of anxiety. "What happens now?" "She's being held for psychiatric evaluation," Richard continued. "And I'm filing for divorce. Emergency custody of our daughter. I should have done this years ago." After he hung up, we sat in the quiet house, processing everything. The immediate danger was over, but the aftermath stretched before us. Criminal charges, restraining order violations, the destruction of family relationships. "I think we should consider moving," my mom said quietly. "A fresh start somewhere." "Running away?" I asked. "No," my dad said. "Protecting our family. Your aunt might be in custody now, but she has money, resources. This isn't over." He was right. That evening, even with Rebecca in psychiatric hold, her flying monkeys emerged. Her father, the wealthy businessman who'd funded her lifestyle, called my dad. "You've destroyed my daughter," he said, his voice cold. "I'll ruin you for this." "Your daughter destroyed herself," my dad replied. "And if you contact us again, we'll add you to the restraining order." But the threats weren't empty. The next day, my dad's boss called him into a meeting. Rebecca's father was a major client of the firm. Pressure was being applied. "I'm not firing you," his boss assured him. "But this situation, it's complicated. My mom faced similar pressure. The edited photos Rebecca had posted were still circulating, despite being taken down. HR was supportive, but the damage to her reputation was real. Maybe we should move, I said that night. This is all my fault. Stop, my mom said sharply. Your aunt chose to abuse you. She chose to harass us. She chose to escalate. You were just the catalyst that exposed who she really was. Your mother's right, my dad added. We're not running. We're going to face this head on. But facing it head on meant dealing with the fractured family. My grandmother called, torn between her daughters. Other relatives chose sides. Some believed Rebecca's version of events, that I was a troubled teen who'd lied for attention. The worst part was my little cousin, Rebecca's daughter. Richard had emergency custody, but the little girl was confused and scared. She'd been staying with Richard's parents, and when I saw her at the grocery store with them, she ran to me. Maya, she cried, hugging my legs. Where's mommy? Daddy says she's sick. I knelt down, fighting tears. She is sick, sweetie, but she's getting help. Is it because of what I said about daddy and the not mommy lady? My heart shattered. This 4-year-old thought it was her fault. No, honey, none of this is because of you. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, and other grown-ups have to help them get better. Richard's mother gently pulled her away, giving me a sad smile. Take care of yourself, Maya. As they left, I realized the true cost of that Thanksgiving dinner. It wasn't just about me and Rebecca. It was about a little girl who might grow up without her mother, a family torn apart, and secrets that should have been addressed years ago. We need to talk to someone, I told my parents that night. All of us. Therapy or something. I can't process this alone. They agreed immediately. The next week, we started family therapy. It helped, talking to someone neutral about the guilt, the fear, the anger. The therapist helped me understand that while my outburst at Thanksgiving wasn't ideal, it was a pressure valve finally releasing after years of abuse. Your aunt's reaction shows how unstable she already was, the therapist explained. Healthy people don't respond to embarrassment with stalking and violence. Slowly, we began to rebuild. The restraining order held. Rebecca remained in psychiatric treatment, though we heard through Richard that she refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing. In her mind, she was still the victim. My dad's job situation stabilized after his firm lost Rebecca's father as a client, but gained several new ones who respected how he'd handled the situation. My mom's workplace implemented new social media policies to protect employees from similar harassment. At school, the whispers eventually died down. My real friends stuck by me, and I found unexpected support from others who dealt with toxic family members. You're brave, a girl named Emma told me one day. My uncle is like your aunt. No one in my family will stand up to him. I wasn't brave, I admitted. I just snapped. Sometimes that's what it takes, she said. 3 months after Thanksgiving, I got a letter. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Maya, it read, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. My marriage, my family, my life. But I want you to know something. I'm not sorry for trying to help you. You needed tough love, and everyone was too weak to give it to you. One day, when you're older and your diabetes has ruined your body, you'll understand I was right. You'll wish you'd listened to me. This isn't over. I'll get out of here eventually, and when I do, I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about what kind of person you really are. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. Aunt Rebecca. I showed it to my parents immediately. They took it to the police, adding it to the ever-growing file. The detective assigned to our case shook his head. She's not showing any remorse or improvement, he said. You folks need to stay vigilant. That night, I sat with my parents, the weight of the last few months crushing down on me. Will it ever really be over? Maybe not completely, my dad admitted, but we'll handle whatever comes, together. My mom squeezed my hand. You're stronger than you know, Maya. You survived 17 years of her abuse. You can survive this too. As I prepared for bed that night, I thought about the upcoming holidays. Christmas was approaching, and for the first time in my life, Aunt Rebecca wouldn't be there. No cruel gifts, no comments about my weight, no tension waiting to explode, but also no resolution, no apology, no healing of the family wound, just a raw, open gash that might never fully close. My phone buzzed. A text from Jamie. Hey, wanna go see a movie this weekend? My treat. We all need some normal teenage fun after this craziness. I smiled, the first genuine smile in weeks. Absolutely. Maybe that was the answer. Not waiting for things to go back to normal, but creating a new normal. One where I didn't have to apologize for existing, where my weight and choices weren't up for cruel commentary, where family meant support instead of judgment. The road ahead was uncertain. Rebecca would eventually leave psychiatric hold. Her father's threats of ruination still loomed. The family might never fully heal from the fractures of that Thanksgiving, but I was still here, still standing, still surrounded by people who actually loved me, not some thin, made-up version of me my aunt demanded. And that, I realized, was its own kind of victory. The next morning, I woke to find 17 missed calls from unknown numbers. My stomach dropped as I listened to the first voicemail. It was Rebecca's father, his voice dripping with venom. You think you've won? I've already spoken to your father's biggest clients. By the time I'm done, your family won't be able to afford groceries, let alone your diabetes medication. I played the message for my parents over breakfast. My dad's jaw tightened, but he kept spreading butter on his toast with deliberate calm. Let him try, he said. I've already had 3 clients reach out to express their support. Turns out most people don't appreciate bullies. But by noon, the threats had escalated beyond phone calls. A process server knocked on our door, handing my dad a thick envelope. Rebecca's father was suing us for defamation, emotional distress, and something called alienation of affection. This is ridiculous, my mom said, scanning the documents. He's claiming we turned Rebecca against him? The doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery driver with a certified letter for me. Inside was a notice from my school. An anonymous complaint had been filed questioning my mental fitness to attend classes with other students. They can't be serious, I said, my hands trembling. My dad was already dialing the lawyer. Within an hour, we were in his office, surrounded by legal books and the weight of what we were facing. The lawsuit is baseless, the lawyer assured us, but defending against it will be expensive. As for the school complaint, we'll need to get ahead of this. That afternoon, we met with Principal Johnson and the school counselor. They'd received multiple calls from Rebecca's father, each more threatening than the last. He'd even contacted the school board demanding my immediate expulsion. We know this is harassment, Principal Johnson said, but we have to follow protocol. You'll need to meet with the district psychologist for an evaluation. The humiliation burned in my chest. My aunt had turned me into a pariah at my own school. Over the next few days, our life became a series of defensive moves. My dad spent hours on the phone with clients, reassuring them. My mom had to provide HR with documentation proving the photos Rebecca posted were edited. I underwent a psychological evaluation that confirmed what everyone already knew. I was a normal teenager dealing with extraordinary harassment. But Rebecca's father wasn't done. He hired a PR firm to tell his side of the story. Suddenly, local bloggers were writing about the tragic family torn apart by false accusations. They painted Rebecca as a concerned aunt, trying to help an ungrateful niece, conveniently leaving out the restraining order and arrest. One morning, I found reporters outside our house. My dad tried to shield me as we rushed to the car, but they shouted questions anyway. Maya, why did you lie about your aunt? Is it true you've been expelled from school? How does it feel to destroy a family? At school, kids I'd never spoken to suddenly had opinions about my life. Someone had printed out the blog posts and taped them to my locker. In the cafeteria, I overheard two girls discussing whether I was the psycho who got her aunt arrested or the victim of that crazy fitness lady. Jamie found me hiding in the library during lunch. This is insane, she said, sliding into the seat next to me. Everyone knows those blogs are garbage. Do they? I pulled up my phone to show her the comments on the latest article. Hundreds of strangers debating whether I deserved what was happening. That afternoon, my mom picked me up early. Her face was pale, and she wouldn't tell me what was wrong until we got home. My dad was already there, laptop open on the kitchen table. Rebecca's out, he said simply. Her father got her released from psychiatric hold. His lawyers argued the facility was violating her rights. The room spun, but the restraining order, still in effect, my dad assured me. She can't come near us, but she's free. That night, none of us slept well. Every car that passed, every noise outside, sent our hearts racing. The police increased patrols, but we all knew Rebecca was too smart to violate the order directly. Instead, she got creative. The next day, our neighbors started receiving letters, professionally printed, on expensive stationery, detailing my history of lying and warning them about the dangerous individual living next door. Mrs. Chen brought hers over, shaking her head in disgust. I threw it straight in the trash, she said, but the Hendersons down the street are talking about starting a petition. A petition for what? My mom asked. To have you removed from the neighborhood. They're saying Maya's presence makes their children unsafe. The cruelty of it took my breath away. These people had watched me grow up, and now they were turning against me because of Rebecca's lies. My dad slammed his fist on the table. That's it, we're going on the offensive. He called a press conference for the next day. Against the lawyer's advice, he decided to tell our side publicly. I watched from behind the curtain as he stood at the podium, my mom beside him, and laid out everything. The years of abuse, the Thanksgiving incident, the escalating harassment. My daughter told the truth about a toxic situation, he said, his voice steady. And for that, she's been terrorized by adults who should know better. We have documentation of everything. The arrest record, the restraining order, the false CPS report. We're not the ones hiding behind lawyers and PR firms. The questions came fast and hard, but my parents handled them with grace. When one reporter asked why I hadn't just kept quiet for family harmony, my mom stepped forward. Because silence enables abuse, she said firmly. We failed our daughter for years by prioritizing false peace over her well-being. We won't make that mistake again. The response was immediate. Our story went beyond local blogs to regional news. Other families started coming forward with their own stories about Rebecca and her father's business practices. Turns out, we weren't the first people they'd tried to destroy, but the attention came with a price. Death threats started appearing in our mailbox. Someone spray-painted liar across our garage door. My dad's car tires were slashed while he was at work. Richard called one evening, his voice exhausted. I wanted to warn you, Rebecca's been staying with her father and she's not taking her medication. She keeps talking about making things right and showing everyone the truth. I'm worried she's planning something. What about your daughter? I asked. She's safe with my parents out of state. I'm not taking any chances. He paused. Maya, I'm sorry it's come to this. If I'd been stronger, if I'd left years ago, we all made choices, I said. Now we're living with them. The next few days passed in a blur of legal meetings and security measures. We installed new locks, upgraded our security system, and varied our routines. I started doing schoolwork from home, only going in for tests. Then came the night that changed everything. I was in my room, working on an essay, when I heard glass breaking downstairs. My blood froze. I grabbed my phone and locked my door, calling 911 as I heard footsteps on the stairs. Someone's in my house, I whispered to the dispatcher. I think it's my aunt. She has a restraining order against her. Stay on the line. Officers are on the way. The doorknob rattled, then pounding. Maya, open this door! We need to talk about what you've done! Rebecca's voice was different, higher, more frantic than I'd ever heard it. The pounding intensified, and I heard wood splintering. She was breaking down my door. I scrambled for my window, phone still pressed to my ear. The dispatcher was saying something, but all I could hear was the door cracking. I managed to get the window open just as the door burst inward. Rebecca stood there, wild-eyed and disheveled. She'd lost weight in psychiatric hold, making her already thin frame skeletal. In her hand was something that made my heart stop. Not the Gian we'd feared, but a can of gasoline. You ruined everything, she said, her voice eerily calm now. So I'm going to ruin everything you love. She started splashing gasoline around my room. The smell was overwhelming. I was halfway out the window when she pulled out a lighter. Rebecca, don't, I screamed. She smiled, that same superior smile from countless family dinners. You should have just lost weight, Maya. None of this had to happen. The police sirens were getting closer. Rebecca heard them too. For a moment, she hesitated, the lighter wavering in her hand. That moment saved our lives. Officers burst through the front door, their shouts echoing through the house. Rebecca dropped the lighter and ran toward my bathroom. I heard her lock the door just as officers appeared in my doorway. Are you hurt? One asked, helping me back through the window. I shook my head, unable to speak. The smell of gasoline was making me dizzy. They evacuated me from the house while others tried to coax Rebecca out of the bathroom. Outside, I found my parents. They'd been at the grocery store when the alarm company called. My mom held me while my dad paced, on the phone with what sounded like every lawyer in the state. It took 3 hours to get Rebecca out. She'd barricaded herself in, alternating between sobbing apologies and screaming threats. When they finally emerged, she was in restraints, her face streaked with tears and makeup. As they led her past us to the ambulance, she looked directly at me. I just wanted to help you, she said, her voice broken. Why couldn't you see that? The house was a crime scene. We stayed in a hotel that night, the three of us crammed into one room, afraid to be separated. I couldn't stop shaking. My mom held me while my dad stood guard by the door, as if Rebecca might somehow appear again. The next morning brought a parade of officials, police, lawyers, insurance agents. The gasoline had soaked into my carpet and walls. Even if we wanted to stay, the smell made it impossible. She'll be charged with attempted arson, breaking and entering, and violating the restraining order, the detective told us. With her history, she's looking at serious time. But Rebecca's father had other plans. His lawyers were already spinning the story. Rebecca was having a mental health crisis, driven to desperation by our campaign of harassment. They filed for an emergency psychiatric hold instead of jail time. This is insane, my dad said after getting off the phone with our lawyer. She tried to burn our house down with Maya inside, and they're acting like she's the victim. We found a rental house across town, starting the process of rebuilding our lives yet again. But the damage was spreading. My dad lost 2 major clients. My mom's workplace suggested she take a leave of absence until things calmed down. The financial pressure was mounting. I tried to return to school, but the whispers had turned to open hostility. Someone left a can of gasoline in my locker with a note. Finish what your aunt started. The school launched an investigation, but I couldn't take it anymore. I want to do online school, I told my parents that night, just until things calmed down. They agreed immediately. My safety was more important than maintaining appearances. The legal battles intensified. Rebecca's father sued the psychiatric facility for releasing her the first time. He sued the police for excessive force during the arrest. He sued us for provoking her mental breakdown. Each lawsuit was more ridiculous than the last, but each one cost money to defend against. Then Richard did something unexpected. He showed up at our rental with boxes of documents. I've been recording everything for years, he said. Her threats, her behavior, her father's involvement. I was too scared to use it before, but I'm done being scared. The recordings were damning. Rebecca admitting to calling CPS maliciously. Her father coaching her on how to harass us without technically breaking laws. Conversations about hiring people to make our lives miserable. Our lawyer's eyes lit up. This changes everything. We can countersue for conspiracy to harass, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and more. But using the recordings meant dragging Richard into the legal battle. Rebecca's father would come after him too. He looked at me before deciding. She terrorized you for years, he said. It's time someone stood up to them. The countersuit sent shockwaves through Rebecca's father's business community. Suddenly, his clients were asking questions. His reputation, built on decades of careful networking, started to crumble. He responded by escalating further. Private investigators followed us everywhere. Our mail was mysteriously delayed or went missing. My parents' credit reports showed inquiries they hadn't authorized. He's trying to destroy us financially, my dad said, reviewing the latest suspicious activity. Death by 1,000 cuts. But we weren't alone anymore. The media attention had connected us with other families who'd been targeted by Rebecca's father over the years. A support network formed, sharing resources and information. One family's story stood out. The Benjamins had refused to sell their property to one of his development projects. Within months, they'd faced lawsuits, harassment, and financial ruin. They'd eventually sold, but at a fraction of the property's value. He does this, Mrs. Benjamin told us over coffee. Finds people he perceives as weak and destroys them. You're the first ones to fight back effectively. The legal proceedings dragged on. Rebecca remained in psychiatric hold, but her father's lawyers fought every step. They demanded independent evaluations, challenged the evidence, and filed motion after motion. Meanwhile, we tried to build some semblance of normal life. I focused on online school, my parents found remote work, and we slowly adjusted to our new reality. But the stress was taking its toll. I noticed new lines on my parents' faces, gray in my dad's hair that hadn't been there before. One evening, while reviewing legal documents, my mom broke down. I'm so tired, she sobbed. When does it end? My dad held her, but I could see the exhaustion in his eyes too. They were fighting so hard to protect me, but at what cost? That night, I made a decision. I called Richard. I want to speak at Rebecca's hearing, I said, face to face. She needs to hear what she's done. Maya, that's not a good idea, he said. Her father will use any interaction to claim you're harassing her. I don't care. I've been silent for too long. It took weeks of legal wrangling, but eventually, a victim impact statement was approved. I would have 5 minutes to address the court during Rebecca's competency hearing. The day arrived gray and drizzling. The courthouse was packed with reporters, family members, and curious strangers. Rebecca's father sat in the front row, his expensive suit and cold stare meant to intimidate. Rebecca was brought in wearing a simple gray outfit, her hair pulled back severely. She'd gained some weight in treatment, looking healthier but somehow smaller. Her eyes darted around the room before landing on me. For a moment, something flickered there. Regret? Fear? Then her lawyer whispered something, and her face went blank. When my turn came, I stood on shaking legs. The prepared statement in my hands suddenly seemed inadequate. I looked at Rebecca, really looked at her, and spoke from my heart. You were my aunt, I began. You were supposed to love me, protect me, guide me. Instead, you made me feel worthless every single day. You turned my body into a battlefield, my existence into something shameful. I talked about the years of comments, the cruel gifts, the constant judgment. I talked about how her obsession with appearance had poisoned every family gathering, every interaction. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, you saw it as vindication instead of tragedy. You couldn't even pretend to care that your niece was facing a lifelong health condition. All that mattered was being right about my weight. Rebecca shifted in her seat, her lawyer placing a warning hand on her arm. But the worst part, I continued, is that you made me believe I deserved it. For years, I thought maybe you were right. Maybe I was worthless because I didn't care about makeup or being thin. Maybe I was broken because I chose happiness over your version of perfection. My voice grew stronger. I'm not broken. I never was. You are. You're so broken that you tried to burn down my home rather than admit you were wrong. You're so broken that you've destroyed your own life trying to destroy mine. I looked at Rebecca's father then, and you enabled it. Every cruel comment, every abusive action, you funded and defended. You're not a father protecting his daughter. You're a bully hiding behind money and lawyers. The judge warned me to stay focused on Rebecca, but I'd said what I needed to about him. I don't forgive you, I said, turning back to Rebecca. I'll never forgive you, but I'm done letting you control my life. Whatever happens here today, I'm free. You're the one trapped in the prison of your own making. I sat down, my whole body trembling. My parents each took one of my hands. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch scratch of the court reporter's keys. Rebecca's lawyer requested a recess, but the judge denied it. The hearing continued with expert testimony about Rebecca's mental state. Doctors testified that she showed signs of severe personality disorders exacerbated by substance abuse and enabling family dynamics. The prosecution presented evidence of the pattern of escalation, the premeditation involved in her actions. The gasoline hadn't been a spur-of-the-moment decision. She'd purchased it days before, along with multiple lighters. When Rebecca finally spoke, her voice was thin and childlike. She claimed she didn't remember most of the incidents, that she'd been trying to help me, that we'd misunderstood her intentions. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I just wanted Maya to be healthy and happy." The judge's expression remained neutral, but I saw the court clerk roll her eyes. The hearing concluded with the judge ordering continued psychiatric hold and criminal proceedings to move forward. Rebecca would remain in treatment indefinitely, with regular reviews of her progress. As we left the courthouse, Rebecca's father approached. My parents moved to block him, but he held up his hands. "You win," he said quietly. "I'm done. The legal fees, the reputation damage, it's not worth it anymore." He looked older, diminished. The powerful businessman who'd terrorized us was just a tired old man who'd lost his daughter to her own demons. "Just leave us alone," my dad said. "That's all we've ever wanted." He nodded and walked away. We never heard from him directly again. The ride home was quiet. The rain had stopped, and weak sunlight filtered through the clouds. I felt empty, drained of the anger and fear that had sustained me for months. "It's over," my mom said softly. "It's really over." But it wasn't. Not really. Rebecca was still out there, somewhere in the system. The financial damage would take years to recover from. The family rifts might never heal. My diabetes didn't care about any of it. I still had to check my blood sugar, count carbs, live with the reality of my condition. That evening, we ordered Chinese food and ate it straight from the containers, too exhausted to pretend at normalcy. My fortune cookie contained a message that made me laugh bitterly. "Your patience will be rewarded." "Bit late for that," I said, tossing it aside. We spent the next weeks in a strange limbo. The immediate threats were gone, but the habits remained. We still checked locks obsessively, still jumped at unexpected noises. Recovery, we learned, wasn't a switch you flipped, but a slow, gradual process. I returned to in-person school for senior year. Some kids still whispered, but most had moved on to new dramas. Jamie remained my constant, filling me in on normal teenage gossip as if the last year hadn't happened. My parents slowly rebuilt their careers. Dad's firm, freed from Rebecca's father's influence, actually thrived. Mom's workplace welcomed her back with new policies protecting employees from harassment. Richard and I developed an odd friendship. He'd send updates about his daughter, who was thriving with stability and therapy. He was dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher who didn't care about designer clothes or perfect bodies. "She makes cookies with real butter," he told me once, wonder in his voice. "And she eats them, just eats them without counting calories or apologizing." The simple joy in his voice broke my heart. Rebecca had damaged so many people with her distorted worldview. A year after the courthouse hearing, I got a letter. The return address was the psychiatric facility. My parents wanted to throw it away unopened, but I needed to know. "Maya," it read in Rebecca's careful handwriting, "I'm told that writing this letter is part of my treatment. I'm supposed to acknowledge the harm I caused and take responsibility. The truth is, I still don't understand why you couldn't just try harder, why you couldn't see I was helping. But my therapist says this thinking is part of my illness. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm the one who couldn't see. I'm supposed to ask for forgiveness, but I know you won't give it. You said so in court. So instead, I'll tell you this. I dream about that Thanksgiving dinner every night. Not about what you said, but about what I said. About your face when I mentioned your diabetes. In my dreams, I take it back. I hug you instead. I tell you we'll figure it out together, but I can't take it back. None of us can. Your Aunt Rebecca." I read it 3 times before folding it carefully and putting it in my desk drawer. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. It was more than I'd ever expected from her. Life moved forward. I graduated high school, started college, made new friends who knew nothing about the girl whose aunt tried to burn her house down. My diabetes became just another aspect of my life, managed and monitored but not defining. My parents and I grew closer through shared trauma. Family therapy became individual therapy, became occasional check-ins when the memories surfaced. We learned to talk about it without drowning in it. Other relatives slowly reached out. Some apologized for taking sides. Others just pretended nothing had happened. We navigated each relationship carefully, setting boundaries that hadn't existed before. Family became a word we defined for ourselves, the people who stood by us, blood-related or not. Mrs. Chen, who'd filmed Rebecca's breakdown and testified on our behalf. The lawyer who'd reduced his fees when money got tight. Jamie's family, who'd never wavered in their support. 5 years later, at my college graduation, I stood at the podium as valedictorian. My speech was about resilience, about choosing your own definitions of success and worth. I didn't mention Rebecca directly, but she was there in every word about overcoming others' expectations. In the audience, my parents beamed with pride. Richard was there with his daughter, now 9 and confident in her own skin. My grandmother, frailer but still fierce, dabbed at her eyes. After the ceremony, as we gathered for pictures, I felt a strange sense of completion. Not closure, that suggests neat endings tied with bows, but completion of a chapter, readiness for the next one. "You did it," my mom whispered, hugging me tight. "Despite everything, you did it." I thought about Rebecca, still in treatment last I'd heard, about her father, whose empire had crumbled after our lawsuit exposed his business practices, about all the pain and chaos that had stemmed from one moment of truth-telling at a Thanksgiving dinner. "We all did it," I said. "We survived." The photographer called for one more shot. As we arranged ourselves, I caught my reflection in a window. Same face, same body that had caused so much conflict. But now I saw strength there, resilience earned through fire. The camera flashed, capturing us mid-laugh at something Jamie had whispered. Later, that photo would sit on my parents' mantle, proof that some families are forged in crisis, not born from perfection. But in that moment, we were just people who'd chosen each other, standing in the sun, ready for whatever came next. The weight of the past was still there, would always be there. We just learned to carry it together. As we walked to the restaurant for my celebration dinner, my dad asked what I wanted to eat. "Whatever I want," I said, linking arms with both my parents, just like always. And for the first time in years, that felt like freedom.